Hello everyone, hope you're all well and thanks very much for all the support with my videos. I'm very grateful. Today I want to speak about Simon Coveney, Fine Gael career politician who has announced he will not be running in the upcoming general election later this year. Big secret, say nothing about later this year. It's the best open secret in Irish society that the election will be this year. Now, Coveney has been a TD for Cork South Central since 1998 following the death of his father Hugh Coveney. Privately educated in Clongowes Wood, up to €20,000 a year it costs to be educated in that private school. So he came from the stock of the ultimate Fine Gaelers, the big farmers, the guys who were looking after the rich and the wealthy, and Coveney didn't disappoint in his many years in political office. He was Minister for Agriculture for 5 years from 2011 to 2016, where he cut environmental schemes in many forms of agriculture. But of course they won't speak about that today because they'll be eulogising about Coveney and how fantastic a public servant he was. He was also at the Bilderberg Group with Peter Sutherland in 2014, a meeting in Copenhagen. Peter Sutherland, the father of globalisation, who also was the head of Goldman Sachs, former Irish Attorney General. And we all know about the disastrous policies of globalisation and how they've impacted the poorest most of all. So Coveney was a big signed up member for them, attended these secret meetings with these big elites, similar to what's going on in Davos as well. And he became Minister for Housing then afterwards, where he said homelessness in emergency accommodation would be ended by the 1st of July 2017. Well, here we are in 2024. We have one of these incarceration facilities, a homeless facility here in Crumlin. 28 families. One family is there well over 2.5 years with 2 young children. So this is the legacy of Simon Coveney, incarceration facilities, and he wants to create more of these as well, and their government wants to create more of them. Record homelessness, record rents, record house prices. But of course Coveney, it's public service, isn't it, Coveney? He was also Minister for Foreign Affairs between 2017 and 2022, further eroding Irish neutrality, oversaw the continued use of Shannon by the US, oversaw a lot of more move towards more militarism in terms of PESCO deals with the European Union, militarism, and the advances of the move towards confrontation. We can see that happening now in terms of what's happening in Ukraine as well. But of course, the army and defence forces were ran down. A lot of members left the army and defence forces. The naval service is destroyed. We've seen that in many, many years. And also we've seen Coveney trying to erode our triple lock and further erode Irish neutrality, being a yes man for the bureaucrats and technocrats in the European Union. He did that with his Brexit deal as well, despite what I tried to say, how great a deal he got for Ireland. Well, it's interesting because he was fully on the side of the bureaucrats in the European Union, Simon Coveney. More interested in the super rich and the big billionaires than the interests of ordinary people. And of course he had his own personal controversies, such as the Catherine Sapone controversy, the former independent, inverted commas, TD in Ireland that went for a job that wasn't publicised, but he was offered a job in the United Nations. Coveney didn't put this out to any sort of public process, and subsequently Coveney then faced the motion of no confidence, and he also attended a big shindig that Sapone had in the Marion Hotel during COVID. And of course, during the period of lockdowns, Coveney was the main man in charge of the COVID response in Irish society. The less said the better. Of course they won't speak about the upcoming COVID inquiry. That's not being spoken about at all in Irish society or political life at the moment. It seems like there's a complete silence around the impacts of lockdowns on ordinary people, and not to mention the big transfer of wealth, but we'll say nothing about that. Coveney doesn't want to let that slip. And also his close relationship with Paul Hyde, the disgraced former head of Bord Pleanála, who co-owns a yacht with Simon Coveney. These are the circles that Simon Coveney mixed in. And of course, the response was from Simon Harris today to say he left an outstanding footprint, and on Ireland we left a big mark, all right, and not the mark that they're going to push about in the media, of course. And Micheál Martin said his commitment to public service, and he was a committed advocate for Cork as well. I think a lot of people in Cork would beg to differ on that, Micheál. And also his statement said, Coveney's own statement said, what he did was right, what was right for Cork. And he worked for prosperity, a fair society, and protect vulnerable people and reward hard work. Well, Coveney is a complete and utter member of the corrupt Irish political establishment, and he will ride off into the sunset on a big pension. Not quite yet, because he's 52 years of age, but he will get a parachute payment of over 236,000 euro, I think, over the next year he will get as he rides off into the sunset, and will get a lovely job in the private sector, no doubt, to make an absolute fortune. Join the other Fine Gael TDs from leaving their positions as well, such as Richard Bruton, Charlie Flanagan, Michael Creed, Joe McHugh, Brendan Griffin, John Paul Phelan. There's also Paul Keogh, Josepha Madigan, Fergus O'Dowd, David Stanton, and there's probably one or two missing there, I think, Kieran Cannon, who are just riding off into the sunset on their big pensions over the next period of time. So he said Paris has brought new energy. Isn't that interesting? A fully signed up member of the super rich and the wealthy. And this comes on the back of the summer economic statement, which was announced yesterday, which said that Ireland's got to spend an upcoming budget on October the 1st up to 6.9 billion extra on public expenditure and 1.4 billion on the tax package. Probably more tax breaks for the rich, inheritance tax increases and stuff like this as well. So, decreases rather, inheritance tax. And also it's important because no mention for extra funding for the housing disaster. The Housing Commission report recently said there was a deficit of 253,000 homes in Ireland. They needed at least 70,000 a year to deal with the extra demand. Surprise, surprise, population growth, immigration. I spoke about again in many videos. So they're looking for more money, but unfortunately in this package, this was not announced because they've only announced an extra 1.4 billion in the capital infrastructure projects, which includes energy, includes water, electricity, and different infrastructure projects as well, with health and housing, education also as well. Last year it was 5 billion spent, and out of that the target was 33,000 homes, and the majority of those would have been from the private sector. So again, it's about incentivising the private sector rather than directly dealing with public housing and public land. And this is in the same week where they decided NAMA is due to be wound up. That had a social clause where we bailed out the bankers, big developers, and forced more and more people in Ireland into misery and poverty, rent and unaffordable accommodation as well. So we'll talk about the crumbs in the summer economic statement, and maybe perhaps a €10 increase to the pension. Think about the pensions which would cost €500 million, €500 million, 10 to €11 increase per week in wages or your pension. And we consider the cost of living disaster, sky high energy bills, sky high food prices, and just getting by day to day. More people are struggling, but again, they'll throw the crumbs and try and say it's a giveaway budget, while Coveney rides off into the sunset on its gold-plated pension. They estimate the pensions worth for these return Fine Gael politicians will be worth up to €18 million. What's not to love about these elites? Come from the rich stock and end up in the rich stock, where the money keeps circling around in their hands, while they'll say we can only spend a certain amount and can't redistribute the wealth properly, and we can spend an extra 12 or €10 maybe on people who are on fixed incomes, such as pensions, such as people on disability payments also as well. Many people who are struggling in Ireland. But of course, it's about the public service, isn't it, Simon? Absolute nonsense. So thanks for the support of my videos, really appreciate it. Thanks for likes, shares, comments. Thanks to people who support me through Buy Me a Coffee. And I'm very grateful also to everybody who subscribes to my YouTube channel. So if you want to follow more of my videos, please press subscribe and you'll get notified when my videos come up. So from Dublin today, thanks for all the support, and I'll see you all soon. Slán, bye bye.